Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I'm Rivolo Shorty. We're going to take a look at White House Robot Romance, which is a hell of a title, and one that certainly attracted my attention when I saw it. I mean, thankfully one of my regular customers gets, every distillery book that comes out, so I always get a chance to take a look at stuff and see if it might interest me. This one, title, yeah, that's a cool thing to call a comic book, but I'm really the kind of guy's going to go for a romance-centered story. I absolutely do not mind there being romance in fiction, even when I'm GMing stuff and my players want to engage in that kind of thing. I will encourage it and go along with it and have a lot of fun with it, but it's not the reason why I engage with storytelling. There's usually always has to be something else in there, and then the romance is oh cool, that's a thing that happened as well. When it's called White House Robot Romance, that does make me think, yeah, okay, Zdarsky's going to absolutely write a romance thing, but it's set in the White House and it involves robots, which means it's totally not just going to be your run-of-the-mill eyes meet over a whirring modem or whatever. There's going to be something more going on. And thankfully, I am proved very, very right. But before we get to that, I am going to level, the only real criticism I've got in this comic book, and it would be unfair of me to not level this criticism, because I think last week I mentioned it in 2 different comic books. It's something which genuinely annoys me whenever I see it, which is that whole background of the characters just goes to void. And some people can do interesting things with that, you can texture it. I would rather sometimes it was just a plain void rather than computer color gradiated kind of thing. I think that looks even less interesting, weirdly, because it looks like if you're going to do it blank, it's done blank on purpose. If it's going to throw some shading on there, it does oh well, that's the thing that we're going to be doing because that's what we have to do in this background, so it doesn't just look like we don't care. Now, it happens a lot in this comic book. The thing is, I didn't notice it. It honestly wasn't until I went back and reread it again, flicking through, checking out little bits of the artwork that stuck with me in my head to try and find ways to capture why I was so impressed by the art styling on it, including Tamara Bonvillain's colouring. Artist, by the way, Rachel Stott, so I had forgotten her name for a second there. It's really, really good, but when I was going through on a second viewing, and I wasn't paying as much attention to the story, to the characters, to the dialogue, it's wow, there's a lot of this, and I flicked through more pages, god damn, so often. I mean, not just white, it is that, gradiated lazy colouring thing which annoys me the most. But because I didn't even register it, at all, when I was reading the comic book first time around, that goes somewhere towards saying that this is a really good comic book. If what you want from it is character-driven story, with the romance plot being front and centre, but in the way of pretty much every bit of genre fiction, in this case science fiction, it is about way more things than the actual science fiction of it all. Yes, they are using robots who are only programmed to respond in certain ways and have directives and programming to keep them in track that do manage to fall in love, which is an interesting thing in and of itself. But it does that so compellingly with dialogue so tightly written that builds up the relationship every single time we see these robots together that I didn't notice one of my biggest bugbears in comic book artistry. So that's got to be in a win column. I mean, also, again, throw into it Stott is fantastic artwork. I mean, there's no denying that. The fact that we get so many moments where I found myself absolutely glued into what the focus of the comic should be, the actual characters, not just because of the writing, but because of how well they are displayed on the page. I mean, I'm guessing if you're going to put that much effort in and absolutely nail it, then, yeah, don't worry about the background. I'm not saying I'm okay with it. I still think I don't like it, but damn, I can see where the effort went, and it absolutely paid off. And the story, as I say, is about more than just the romance. We're involving robots, we're looking at things indentured servitude and slavery. We have things like free will, but not just that. There's also a fairly solid subplot about generative AI artistry. Give you a quick rundown. Chip Zdarsky, not a fan. But honestly, neither am I, so it's good. It's speaking my language. But the main thing we have is the fact it's set in the White House, and we have a president of indeterminate political party, at least based on my very, very quick understanding of it, who is trying to basically start a war with Canada for reasons. And there's an awful lot to be said about the current political climate of the Americas, particularly North America, that Zdarsky et al. Might be playing around with to tell their own particular type of story. It is going that, near future, far darker or far more intense, far wider than you expect it to, but that's how storytelling works. You don't do it beat by beat, or if you do, you've got to approach it differently. I'm thinking back to something I read called Masterminds recently, which does that very, very effectively. This is kind of showing far more into this dystopia side of things by taking what's happening to certain people and then just expanding it out. But it is brilliant and so well written. Every single beat of character through verbal expression, non-verbal communication, all of it just goes towards telling this amazing story with these brilliant characters in it. I genuinely am more impressed than I thought I would be with a book called The White House Robot Romance. That's it for me for now, though. Till I'll see you all again. Look after you, everyone. Stay safe. Bye!